All right, we're going to try this again. You know, Dudley was like, hey, do you want me to come and help this morning with the brief? And I was like, nah, I got it. There's something to having somebody sitting on the other side of the camera making sure the damn brief is still going so that I don't talk for 35 minutes and find out that only 5 minutes of it was live. But so be it. I will try to do the brief again. Take 2. About 70,000 people protested soaring energy prices. The United Nations, the European Union, NATO, and the Czech government in Prague. Inflation for the country is expected to hit 20% soon, and with energy costs soaring uncontrollably, the people are protesting the country's support of sanctions against Russia. In comparison, the official inflation numbers of the United States are roughly 9%. Unofficially, they're somewhere between 18 and 30%. And it's probably just a matter of time in the United States before people end up protesting at state and federal capitals. Europe was already in a significant energy crisis, but now things have become even more dire. Russia has halted gas to Europe indefinitely following Western economic sanctions. Moscow has denied that the move was retaliatory in nature. A spokesperson for the Kremlin told reporters, quote, problems in pumping arose because of the sanctions imposed against our country and against a number of companies by Western states, including Germany and the UK. The very sanctions that prevent the maintenance of units, which prevent them from moving without appropriate legal guarantees, which prevent these legal guarantees from being given, and so on. End quote. In other words, Russia's saying, hey, we'd love to give you gas, but we can't give you gas because our maintenance sucks because you wouldn't send us the parts we needed to maintain our pipeline. And that's in part true. It's also very much so in part true that they've been toying with the idea of shutting down those pipelines, Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2, for a hot minute now, since February of this year. And Europe has been cowering in fear at the thought of Russia shutting them down. And now they are shut down. Gas prices in Europe have already leapt higher in response to the news, and rationing is expected should the situation continue into winter. It's not just gas prices, of course, as this will subsequently impact European economies on the whole. People are still here. That's good. How many people? 300. That's okay. The issue with the gas going to Europe is, for example, a country like Germany doesn't just use that gas for heating. They run their entire industrial manufacturing base on natural gas. And so that further exacerbates the issue, the economic issues, that if people can't afford to pay their bills and they can't go to work because work is closed, now we have created a self-fulfilling prophecy, an Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail, right? A closed feedback loop of desperation. Great Britain is facing double-digit inflation already, and a recession seems imminent. More and more sectors are seeking strikes, as previously reported, due to economic pressures. Britain's new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, has her work cut out for her as she enters office amid this continually worsening economic and political climate. As she stated her goals, she said, quote, I have a bold plan to grow the economy through tax cuts and reform. I will cut taxes to reward hard work and boost business-led growth and investment. Secondly, I will deal hands-on with the energy crisis caused by Putin's war. I will take action this week to deal with energy bills and to secure our future energy supply. End quote. It is expected that she will sanction a freeze on household energy bills, though that would ultimately cause taxpayers to foot the bill for the expected winter energy price hikes. So price controls there. Price controls being a hallmark of a desperate government. That's an indicator for sure. The lack of Russian gas coming, the effect that that's going to have on the economy is going to exacerbate civil unrest, which is going to cause more political pressure on the powers that be to potentially retaliate against Russia, because all governments, good ones, bad ones, whatever, strive to maintain legitimacy amongst their constituency. And if people can't pay their bills and feed themselves, sooner or later the government's going to run out of constituents, which means they're not going to have anybody to govern. And so it's pretty convenient that they're, calling it the Russian war. For the flip side, as Russia has said for a decade, hey, y'all better don't do that. Oh, well, you did it. I guess we're going to war now. Russia sees the war in Ukraine as an existential threat, i.e. they will cease to exist if they mess it up. And so therefore, they're taking it pretty seriously. Liz Truss has taken a hard position against Russia. She's made clear that she would be willing to deploy the United Kingdom's nuclear arsenal should a dire situation arise requiring such a move. And she also wrote during her campaign for office, quote, "I will go further as Prime Minister by doing everything possible, including declassifying more intelligence to expose Putin's playbook to the world. My government will use intelligence strategically to reveal the Kremlin's attempts to undermine and destabilize freedom-loving democracies," end quote. So the issue with this, the potentiality of Liz Truss et al. Deploying the United Kingdom's nuclear arsenal against Russia, is what exactly constitutes a dire situation? When Liz decides it's a dire situation, when Russia pushes the UK into a corner, when the United States says, oh, this is a dire situation, hey, UK, you're part of NATO, and Liz said that she was willing to use the big bombs, what is that? Right? And so, the threat of nuclear holocaust has been on everybody's mind since February 24th, 2022, when Russia felt froggy and jumped the line into Ukraine, rather. Is this just rhetoric? Entirely possible it's just rhetoric. We know we've seen Russian rhetoric for the same reasons, releasing the grid coordinates of the Pentagon in New York City and so forth and so on. Could just be rhetoric. It could not be rhetoric as well. The issue with nuclear weapons is once you go there, it's really difficult to ungo there. We have this entire doctrine, a lot of us grew up with it, of mutually assured destruction, right? And then that turned into second strike capability. And then that turned into, okay, well, decapitating strikes. We got to take them off the map first before they take us off the map. And all this nuclear strategery. That's why Strategic Air Command was created. During the Cold War, certain cities in Russia were slated to receive 30 to 70 nuclear weapons each in nuclear bombing sprees that were supposed to be able to be executed within a 72-hour window. How many nukes are enough nukes? Right? What are the follow-on effects of a nuclear weapon being deployed? It's only been done twice in warfare. And people will say, and I don't, maybe you're right. There's a lot of people, some of y'all right now, emoting in the comments, nuclear weapons aren't real. And, hold on. Yes, we still have a live stream. That's good. Nuclear weapons aren't real. What was dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki weren't nuclear weapons. If you look at the carbon dating and radon and this, that. Okay, cool, bro. A couple of things. First of all, who cares if they're real or not, or if they were real or were not in Hiroshima and Nagasaki? Got the job done, didn't it? Yeah, it got the job done. Second of all, maybe because the weapons technology grew exponentially from Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 6th and 9th, 1945, on from there. You get into something like the Tsar Bomba 50 megaton class weapons. Maybe there wasn't enough radiation being put out by those earlier, much smaller bombs in order for them to adequately affect the soil levels for that radiation to be found in the soil. Who cares, is my point. It's it's semantics. It's arguing bullshit, honestly. I'll tell you this, if they weren't real in World War II, they're real now. For sure, for real now. And if it's not a nuclear weapon, but if it's something masquerading as a nuclear weapon that's just as dangerous, who cares? The net effect is the same. If I shoot you with a 55 grain full metal jacket or a 77 grain OTM, either way, you've been shot. Does it matter? Yeah, well, terminal ballistics and range. Yeah, it matters, but it also doesn't matter. Either way, you've been shot. I shoot you with a 20 gauge versus a 12 gauge. Does it matter? Like, you've still been shot. Like, if you get into a car wreck with a 10-wheeler dump truck filled with rocks and gravel, or a semi 18-wheeler, does it matter? They're both devastating. One of them weighs 58,000 pounds, the other one weighs 78,000 pounds. Doesn't matter. The net effect is the same. So I don't understand why so many people are camping on this. Nuclear weapons aren't real. It's all a ploy to scare people. Okay, maybe. I don't know if they will ever be used again in warfare. If we look at the scale of warfare, there has been a controlled effort by they to move away from large-scale third-generation conventional warfare after World War II and to fight more of like fourth-generation insurgencies and guerrilla conflicts, simply because the scientific community had a massive concern. And by the way, the people that invented them, Oppenheimer et al., had a massive concern over the use of nuclear weapons in warfare. What was it? Einstein, I believe it was attributed to Einstein. I know not what weapons will be used to fight the Third World War, but surely the fourth will be fought with sticks and stones. Air Force General, what was his name? Coined the phrase, bombing them back to the Stone Age. Yeah. What does it matter what munitions are used to bomb you back to the Stone Age if the net effect is achieved? No, it doesn't. But I digress. Largely, Western nations are very interested in the activity at the nuclear power station in Ukraine. Just recently, the International Atomic Energy Agency recommended a security zone for the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station due to shelling hitting its power lines and damaging buildings holding fresh nuclear fuel and solid radioactive waste. No blame for the attacks has been laid, though Russian troops and equipment were found at the plant. Moreover, the Ukrainian staff operating it are working under extreme stress and pressure, which is a risk in of itself. While further attacks on the plant are still a threat, it is not yet a nuclear emergency. If it does become a nuclear emergency, though, it could become an internationally relevant incident. And that is the brief take two. Curtis LeMay. Curtis LeMay. Air Force General Curtis LeMay. The point here is, like, we, collective we, have been concerned, again, with renewed vigor of nuclear holocaust since February of this year due to Russia in Ukraine. Does Russia have the capability to launch nuclear weapons? Maybe. A lot of the artillery shells that they're using right now in Ukraine are more than 30 years old. And just like food, explosives have a best by date as well. So they're having issues with their artillery shells right now, consuming somewhere in the neighborhood, reports are, 40,000 shells a day. And they're running low on munitions. We've seen that their logistics and supply chains have not been well maintained because the vast majority of the funds that were freed up to maintain that equipment ended up in the hands of Russian oligarchs. So I don't really love the idea of Russia even attempting to launch a nuclear weapon because who knows how that's going to go. Are they even capable of it? You know, the flip side of that is nobody really wants to find out. Add in the fact that we've got a 80-year-old senile man, kid sniffer, in the White House right now as leader of the free world. It's not a great time to be dependent upon the system. It's a great time to be self-reliant. By the way, I will not be at the Self-Reliant Festival Self-Reliance Festival in Camden, Tennessee, this quarter in October. But I would highly recommend, if you're anywhere near there, that you go meet people, network, date people, fall in love, do meaningful stuff together. Nicole Sauce and John and Amanda at SOE Tactical will be there. I think Jack Spirko will be there. Probably Perma Pastures, Billy Bond, several other people will be presenting as well. It's a really good time. So become self-reliant. The system is going away. Reliable energy, it's going away. You know, stability and a relative peace going away. And people focused for a long time about the inability to buy or sell. You know, since the age of COVID, what happens when they won't allow us to buy and sell? That was a fundamental misunderstanding of the problem. What happens when there is nothing to buy and sell? Because being allowed to buy and sell is predicated on the fact that there's still a system. But the system is being dismantled at a controlled demolition. The big they are taking it apart. The Great Reset, the New World Order. Being allowed to buy and sell means that there's a system for you to buy and sell in. More like what happens when the system collapses and there is nothing to buy and sell. Or a loaf of bread is $1,000. Doesn't matter if you have money or not. Doesn't matter if you're allowed to buy or sell or not if there's nothing to buy and sell. That gets back to self-reliance and independence from the system. And you know, the naysayers will say, oh, what happens when they come to your neck of the woods, Bear, and they take all your sheep and your goats and your cattle and the wheat that you put in buckets? You know, frankly, you'll probably be a corpse before I ever have to worry about that. And if I ever do have to worry about that, we'll navigate. We'll figure it out. We got plans. We got spider points. But don't squander the opportunity that presents itself now to become prepared, because that window of opportunity is closing. The system has not imploded yet. It will, but it's not imploded yet. And then the last thing I'll say about that is, what does the phoenix look like that rises from the ashes? The more self-reliant, the more strong you are right now, the more input you are going to have into what the system looks like next. So it's not just short-term tactical survival, man. Long-term strategic. How do we survive this so that we can thrive in what comes next? I'm not talking about whoring with a beast system. I'm talking about being able to make moves now so that you're in a good position then when opportunities present themselves. I talked about this yesterday. Chaos creates a lot of opportunity for those that have the liquidity to make moves. So it's not just simply enduring. Like, don't think little picture, think big picture. Nuclear holocaust, maybe. I don't know. If we have one of those, we probably don't have a lot to worry about. If we don't, yeah, you got a lot to figure out. We still got a brief? Yeah, we got a brief. All right, cool. Listen, that's the brief for today. I apologize that it cut out the first time. I'm not in charge of that. That's why I like Patreon. I don't have those problems over on Patreon. We're not actively censored and removed from the internet by Patreon. So shout out to the patrons. There's a link in every video and live stream. It's $5 a month, man. I was counting since Friday. Today's Wednesday. Since Friday, there have been 17 posts. This will be the 18th post at Patreon since Friday. I do a lot of stuff over there. So check it out. Now, if you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, here's your cue. Get out of here. For everybody else, Refuge Medical right now, it is National Preparedness Month. So running a promo for National Preparedness Month. You spend $150 or more, you get a free cat tourniquet. Yeah, like a real Gen 7 North American Rescue cat tourniquet for free. It's a $30 value. You spend $300 or more, you get a North American Rescue genuine bleeding control kit with a cat tourniquet, pressure bandage, 2 cubes of wound packing gauze, 2 pairs of gloves, a set of shears, hypothermia, space blanket, trauma card, etc. $57 value. You spend $300 or more. You spend $400 or more, you get a wound care bucket, $139 value. Wound care bucket. Gauze, tape, gloves, disinfectant for treating one grievous wound for a minimum of 30 days. Free. RefugeMedical.com. National Preparedness Month promo. Additionally, our OSHA compliance kits have just launched, the OX. So if you work in an industry with OSHA oversight and you know that your first aid kit is a piece of garbage, we've got the solution for you. We did a lot of market research and it turns out there's very, very few adequate OSHA first aid kits out there. So we have the basic, the Class A kit, which is your standard must-have OSHA first aid kit. And then we've got the advanced or the Class B OSHA first aid kit, which has a Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet in it to meet the new OSHA standards that go in effect at the end of this year. And that is a requirement for industries that have a high incidence of mechanical amputations, lacerations, critical bleeds, etc. So like manufacturing, construction, energy, working on an oil rig, logging, tree climbing, all that stuff. And so they're very competitively priced. All that's at RefugeMedical.com. So check that out. Always HSA and FSA approved. And you can always use promo code BEARNATION for free shipping on everything at the store. Refuge Training. Those guys are in Utah right now. I think they're on their way to Idaho. And teaching people the fine art of how to not die. So, keep them in your prayers. Go to class and see them. There's a couple dates left, Dallas and Waco, Texas. So if you're anywhere near there and you'd like to learn the fine art of how to not die, you can go to refugetraining.com. And of course, your promo code is BearNation there. And then Grindstone Ministries. Grindstone Ministries in Caleb House. We've got to load up the trucks and equipment today, go back to Caleb House, continue in the construction of our restoration facility for juvenile human trafficking survivors and victims of sex crimes, i.e. children who have been serially raped. We have a couple dozen people in our care right now, and we could not take care of them. We could not rescue them. We could not restore them without your help. So thank you for helping us do what we do. We are 100% funded by the Bear Nation. We have never received a dime from any other entity outside of the Bear Nation, and I like it that way. We have Caleb House t-shirts that are in the process, t-shirts, long sleeves, and hoodies that are in the process of being designed right now in conjunction with our friends at Sanctified Supply Co. So when those drop, I will let you know. That'll be another way to help support the mission, to rescue and restore these kiddos, to break generational curses, and to provide a biblical covering to widows and orphans. They're not going to be cheap, and that's because we got to earn a couple bucks on each of these shirts so that we can help take care of the kiddos that we got. We have kiddos as young as 1 year old. And I don't know what kind of asshole takes it upon himself to rape a 1 year old. But I do know there will never be a day where I won't go rescue that 1 year old. And I can't do that without y'all. So thank you for equipping and empowering us to be able to go be the hands and feet of Mashiach, of Messiah, and to live a life full of meaning, and to be the light and stand against freaking evil. We'd be dead in the water without y'all. And I just humbly thank you for your support. That's the brief for today. Y'all have a blessed day. Shalom.